In a golf.com article from early 2021, Greg Norman wrote about his 1996 Masters meltdown, and he explained that he woke up on Sunday morning feeling out of sorts, and at the range he was unable to clear his hips and got the club stuck behind him. So the title of this video, if Greg Norman couldn't clear his hips, what makes you think you can? It was Greg Norman who said that he couldn't clear his hips. I didn't say that. He's the one who said it. And this is the article that he said it in, as you can see, March 2021. In the article, there's a young Greg Norman, 1981, his first Masters, and he explains that when he woke up on Sunday morning, he felt something was wrong. Greg says, I felt like my feet, hips, and shoulders were out of alignment. Now that's impossible. I'm a chiropractor. That's really impossible. What he was really referring to is that he felt disconnected, and his feet, hips, and shoulders were not as connected as well as he typically feels, he was mentally disconnected also. And so he went out for a walk, tried to sort it out, but he couldn't sort it out. So obviously now the tension is building, the stress is building. He goes to the range, practices, his caddy is there, Butch Harmon is there. He's telling these guys the club is stuck, meaning what? That he could not rotate his hips and clear them correctly. Now, we've all heard, if you play golf, we've all heard about not being able to clear the hips. Visually, for us, we wouldn't have been able to see it, but it's so subtle when you're as great as a Greg Norman. But this really does speak to the issue. If you're as great as Greg Norman was in 1996 when he was ahead by 6 strokes, and if Greg Norman got screwed up, this just tells us about how unbelievably fragile the golf swing is. Really, and I'm going to add a few words here. So the golf swing is a complex psychophysiologic event. We could say the golf swing is a complex, fragile, psychophysiological, kinesiological event that can be easily disrupted. We've all done it to ourselves. You go to the range, practice a few things, or get something in our head, take a lesson before, watch something, try it, and that next thing you know, the next day you're playing the course and you suck. So the golf swing can be easily disrupted because it's such a complex and fragile psychophysiological, kinesiological event. So faulty breathing is an example of what can screw up our body and mind. So here's Greg Norman. Now what does faulty breathing do? What I'm referring to is blowing off too much CO2. So one of the things that I've heard Greg Norman say when he's been an announcer at tournaments, and Nick Faldo said it on a regular basis, as did, I believe, on a regular basis, Paul Azinger. They start talking about, like, when you get down to the wire, it's very stressful. You want to take deep breaths and relax. But what they don't realize is that deep breaths do the exact opposite. When you take a deep breath in, you breathe in more air and you blow off more CO2. The more CO2 we blow off, the less freely relaxable are our arteries to bring blood to our brain and elsewhere. So it can disrupt subtly or dramatically both mental and physical function. And I'm pretty sure that is what happened with Greg Norman, because it is a common scenario, and it's called hypocapnia, and it's extremely common in the patient population as well as during highly stressful competition type of events, or anything where your highly stressed breathing will change. If you blow off more CO2, you will lose mental and physical function to varying degrees. So in my book, The Amateur Golfer's Dilemma, I've got an entire chapter on breathing, talk about hypocapnia throughout it, and talk about hypocapnia, low blood CO2 here as well. Absolutely worth reading, and I'll likely do a video thereafter. But Greg Norman was talking about how he was unable to clear his hips, and I think it was due to subtle shift in CO2. It is so common. That problem of hypocapnia is so common, it's shocking. It is absolutely shocking. There are books and articles about it. The old previous name of hypocapnia or overbreathing was called hyperventilation syndrome. It's just hyperventilation is so obvious, whereas shallow breathing, where you do not properly use your diaphragm, is not so obvious. So Greg had a problem clearing his hips. So if you were to go onto YouTube or go onto Google and just search clearing hips and golf swing, you'll get a bunch of videos. This is what shows up first. And what I can tell you about this guy is that he can clear his hips. He can do all the things that he tells golfers that we should do. But what he does not realize is that we simply cannot. We can easily do this, and most amateurs cannot do this. So his recommendations will never help these guys. And why? The reason why is because these guys are literally standing on top of the golf ball in terms of being too close to it for their rotational movement skills. So as opposed to rotating, clearing their hips, they stand up. So Greg Norman, any pro who's feeling like Greg felt should back up from the golf ball to take the stress and strain, the dynamic physiological strain or challenge away from their lower extremities and hips and make them move a little bit easier. The further back you stand, the less you have to be perfect in your rotational movements with your legs and hips. So this is my setup position. Now in this setup position, I am already set up with my hips cleared. So when I swing down, I don't have to get my hips out of the way. They are already out of the way. These guys cannot do that because they're standing so close to the ball. So let's compare my setup with this guy's setup and this guy's impact position. Okay, so this guy is set up so there is no chance that he will ever clear his hips. If you think about how much space, if he was to straighten his arms out, literally the driver head would be down here. He has to get a lot of his body out of the way. Now his arms are hanging down closer to his body than most pros when they're getting ready to swing a driver. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. You should watch some of my other videos. So let's look at this guy up top because he's so close. See what has to happen? If you're this close and you can't rotate, you're going up and no chance to clear your hips. No less will you'll be able to clear your hips. It's absolutely impossible. Let's look at me down below. And I'm nothing special. I'm just not stuck in the amateur golfer's dilemma like this guy is. So watch me through impact. Look at that difference. I mean, which is easier to regularly hit the ball straight if all you do is basically turn into the ball and you're already cleared versus this guy standing up on his toes. This guy stands up on his toes during his backswing and downswing and follow through. This guy's pure toes. So nothing that this guy would learn in this video will ever help him clear his hips. It is just not possible. So you can see the impact positions that we are looking at here. I'm already cleared. My hips are cleared at setup. These guys are never going to be able to clear their hips. It's just not possible. So an enormous piece of the amateur golfer's dilemma is simply setting up for impact. So let's look at my setup, look at my impact, look how nice and easy that is. So easy. You could just watch this video, go out right now, and this is all that you do. And if you decide to just do that, right, that's all you wanted to do, the way you want to think about this is you want to find your ideal setup position. I'm at D. Look at my arms. You can see my arm and club position resembles D. That works for me. I just find D works better for me. So if all you did was this right now, this could be your potential outcome. So I've done a bunch of videos that have been getting a decent amount of views for my world, and here is a response. So someone watched one of my previous videos. They realized, hey, I'm standing too close to the ball. I go into early extension, and this guy has been a mid-70s golfers for years, have always struggled with early extension. Well, of course, you stand too close to the ball. After watching the Amateur Golfer's Dilemma, I shot 2 under the first time out. All I did was stand further away from the ball. This guy echoed those statements. That's all that you need to do. If you'd like more information about all the other things that you can address in the context of the Amateur Golfer's Dilemma, just head over to Amazon, type in the Amateur Golfer's Dilemma, and you can check out the book there. You can see way less expensive than a golf lesson that won't help you if you're standing too close to the ball.